What's up, airsofters? This is a SIG. You know, SIG pistols are among the most durable and reliable pistols in the world. There's a reason why military and law enforcement agencies have used their handguns for decades, and still do to this day. Anyone not living under a rock knows that SIG won the latest US military contract for the standard issue sidearm, the M17, usurping one of the most ubiquitous pistols on the planet. In fact, we did a video on the M17 in case you missed it. This is the SIG P229, a design that predates the M17 and is actually an upgraded version of the 228, which is a compact version of the legendary P226. You know, the P226, 226, the P226, the pistol that the Navy SEALs have used for more than 30 years. Anyway, the P229 is used by more than 30 countries, including the US. It, and the rest of the SIG 22 Star line of handguns, has been used in TV shows and movies for decades, like Heat, Miami Vice, CSI Miami, CSI New York, The X-Files, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Con Air, the Jason Bourne series, Shooter, Taken, Bad Boys, and most recently, Bad Boys for Life. Bad Boys for Life. Bad Boys for Life. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. You don't need to say the name of the movie in the script every 5 minutes. But hey, good movie. The list is huge because this gun has such an iconic profile and silhouette. The list of video games that it's used in is just as impressive as the list of film and television that it's been in. This airsoft version of the P229 is actually the official training handgun of the US Coast Guard. And that's not just by chance, because this feels and functions so closely to the real article, it's good enough to train people who defend our country. In fact, I'd be willing to argue that the US Coast Guard is probably the most prepared to be part of the Space Force in case we ever need to board vessels in space or work in a zero or low oxygen environment.
Or capture space drugs.
Yeah, or capture space contraband smugglers.
Spice.
Yeah. Now what that means is that I'd be willing to bet a SIG will be the first handgun used in space by the Space Force. Think about that. The ProForce P229 features official SIG trades on the slide. The frame has a unique serial number and the SIG trades on the plastic molded grip. The slide has rear serrations and sights are classic 3-dot sights. You'll notice that the sights are molded into the slide. Now, honestly, for me, that's a step down in quality from the M17. I love the M17 and I wish that the sights were also removable. But it really shouldn't be an issue for an airsoft pistol, especially if you don't intend to change those out. The controls are classic for the SIG P22 series. It features a DASA or double action, single action trigger, a working decocker, and a slide lock. Now SIG puts the slide lock way back here, right where the thumb safety would traditionally be. You'll notice that there's no safety on this, just like the real thing. SIG apparently decided that the gun was meant to be carried with a round in the chamber, decocked, you know, super tactical, so that the long and heavy double action trigger pull would prevent any negligent discharges. Therefore, no manual safety. This airsoft P229 runs on a green gas magazine that holds a maximum of 24 rounds, although we found that for the most part, 20 rounds seem to give us the best functionality and ease of reload. Let's check out how it unboxes and take a look at the internals, then get it out and put this thing through its paces. All of SIG Air's products ship in very handsome boxes with all of the pertinent info on the outside. Inside, the pistol arrives with just a single strip of foam padding. There's not much protection for the pistol, but honestly it doesn't really need it. This thing is a tank. The hop-up chamber is nicely made, and we noticed that the adjustment wheel was more responsive and held its position better than some others. Otherwise, the system is very similar to the Tokyo Marui style hop-up. The inner barrel and bucking are compatible with TM style parts. We also noticed this piece of what appears to be masking tape around the barrel. Our best guess is that this is to help center the barrel inside the hop-up. It doesn't seem to be harming anything, so we left it in. Airsofters, Welcome to the range. Who am I kidding? It's our outdoor testing facility. But we've got the SIG Sauer P229 gas blowback pistol down here with us. Now, first things first, let's talk about ergonomics. SIGs are one of those hate it or love it pistol platforms. They have a really thick, wide grip. And if you're used to the M9 or you like the M9, then a SIG's gonna feel pretty comfortable to you. That thicker grip is difficult for people to get used to. Now on the real firearm, the higher bore axis of the barrel and slide are gonna lend to more recoil and are going to take you longer to get used to. On the airsoft version, not so much a problem. These don't recoil like the real thing. But that sense of having to drive out and then maintain a good grip through that recoil stroke is something that you're going to want to practice, especially if you're using this as a training implement. With that said, the controls are really easy to use and access. Dropping the magazine is easy if you have size 9, 9.5, 10 hands. A little bigger than that, no problem at all. Smaller than my hands, you're gonna have to break your grip to drop your magazine. This is your slide lock here, and the slide lock can be dropped like so. And just in front of that is your decocker. Now the decocker is important here. Traditionally, when you rack the slide on a 1911, this thing is ready to fire. But without a functioning safety, how do I make this harder to discharge if I'm not ready or I don't want to shoot the gas blowback pistol or the real firearm? Well, that's when you're going to use your decocker. Simply pull down on that and you'll see that it actually drops the hammer forward. So instead of a single action trigger, you now have a more traditional double action trigger, much like an M9 or a SIG, because we're talking about SIGs. All right, let's shoot it. So this is your double action trigger pull. You'll notice it's a lot stiffer than your single action, and it'll take a full sweep of the trigger to fire, like so. Now once I've fired that first shot, hammer's back, now you're on single action. Making follow-up shots a lot quicker. Speaking of mag changes, I need to get better at them. Didn't even look. Just kidding, let me bring you back for a second. You'll notice that I was fumbling to release the slide, and that's because A, I don't shoot SIGs, and I wish I was better at my job, and B, they've moved the slide release further back than I'm used to with my other handguns. That means that where I'd traditionally be sweeping to release my slide, I'm actually hitting the decocker, and I need to move my thumb backwards to release the slide. One easy way to get around that when your slide's locked back and you've got a new mag in is to power stroke it. And yes, the 229 will power stroke. I like it. Now that we've got the mag out, let's talk a little bit about the trigger. So if you're not used to a double action, single action trigger, it could get some getting used to. Your initial, when your hammer is down or when you've decocked it, is going to take a considerable more effort than once it recoils and goes into single action. At single action, your reset is nice and pronounced. There's a really nice audible click, and there's your wall. So in single action, you'll notice that the trigger is farther back. So there's your starting point, and there's your single action. There's your wall. A whole lot of mush, and then it breaks. And that's a SIG trigger on an airsoft gun. Let's talk a little bit about sights and about gas power. First things first, it uses a 3-dot sight setup. This is going to be a little bit different from your traditional Glock bucket sight, but personally, I like the 3-dot. All you got to do to make sure that you're properly aligned with the sights is make sure that your dots are even as you look through them. Make sure that they're even across. And just make sure that the front dot, which is your main focal point, is evenly spaced between your rear two. And then it's real easy to be on target. Now, one thing I do notice about the sights, despite them being easy to acquire, is that they're molded into the slide. Personally, I would have preferred a set of removable or adjustable sights in case you had to correct for any deviations in your barrel or anything like that. But it's not a negative that they're molded in. It's just if you intended to swap them, you can't. Let's talk a little bit about gas performance. Now, with a fresh mag that's heated up to ambient temperature, it starts off pretty snappy, but you'll start to notice that the slide almost lags a bit. It's sluggish almost. And that's not to say that the performance isn't there. It's still shooting them out at over 300 FPS. Just doesn't feel as snappy as some other platforms. Do I think that this could be solved with CO2? Yes. Yes, I do. But currently, there isn't a CO2 version of the 229. Of course, we've got to do our accuracy portion of our outdoor shooting test. So let's go ahead and load our .20s into this. Now, granted, if you were using this outdoors, I would definitely suggest 2.5s, but in the interest of seeing what these will do in an optimal environment indoors, we loaded it with 2.0s. Let's see how we do at just over 8 yards. Like I said when we were talking about the sights, it's real easy to get a sight picture, and at those distances with 2.0s outdoors, it's still a really nice tight grouping right at 25 feet. Now this is where you're going to be kind of engaging people the most often with a sidearm, but I want to see how this performs kind of at the further distances, the extremes of where you'd be engaging someone with a pistol. Let's head out to 50 feet and see how we do. So we moved out to 50 feet, but I also want to test it at 100 just for S's and G's. So let's see how we do with our 50-foot test. Now, something interesting I'm noticing already is not only is the hop-up easy to set, in fact, I really like the hop-up unit in these. It's easy to fine-tune and it maintains its hop. However, because it is the standard single arm design of a traditional TM style hop-up unit, you do get a little hooking to the left. If you know what I'm talking about, comment in the section below. Let's head out to 100 feet and then we'll look at how we did overall. Here we are at the 100-foot line, and the target's kind of all the way down there. Traditionally, I'd suggest switching to a rifle at this point, but I have a sneaking suspicion we might be able to get on target even at this distance. Let's see how it does. So here we are back at the target looking over kind of our accuracy test as we moved farther out. Now, those initial shots from 25 feet, right in the A zone, good to go. We moved out to 50 feet and that's where I talked about them drifting to the left a little bit. Obviously you can correct for that, and having sights that could shift would allow you to correct for that a little bit. But as you can see, I was more in the C range, but still centered on the target. 100 feet. Either I'm a terrible shot at 100 feet, which is plausible. In fact, it's probably 100% true. I don't think I hit the target once at 100 feet. That's not a knock on the pistol. It's a knock on my abilities. Standard engagement distances, green gas, 2.0s to 2.5s, body size target. You're gonna nail them every time. Let's do a chrono test. Since we're going to be doing the chrono test, we need to reload our magazines with 2.0s, and I wanted to show one of the awesome things about the mag pick. These tines on the edge of the mag pick actually allow you to pull down your follower and hold it in place. That's really convenient because you don't strain your thumb trying to get your magazines loaded, and it works on green gas and CO2 mags. Simply load in the BBs of choice. Make sure they're loading pretty evenly, and once you're loaded, release the mag pick and you're ready to go. Now we've loaded our .20s in our magazine, filled them with green gas and allowed them to come up to ambient temperature. We've got our chrono set up ready for .20 gram BBs. Let's see how it does. Chronoing right at 302. Now that's decent performance on green gas right out of the box. One of the common concerns when it comes to gas blowback pistols or gas guns in general is whether or not they'll get through an entire magazine full of gas and BBs. So we thought we'd give that a test. Green gas in the mag, .20s in the mag. Let's see how many mags it'll get through. Now it did get through an entire magazine, but it does sound like it's slowing down a bit. So let's go ahead and reload and see how many more rounds it'll get through. We're out of air, and we're just about through a second magazine. Now, do I think that you're going to be convincing your opponents to call their hits with the gas that's coming out of it halfway through its second magazine? Probably not. I'd be safe in saying that you'll get through at least one magazine on one fill every time you go out. So if you're like me, you fell in love with the shape and looks of the SIG 22 series. It is something classic and super tactical and very Navy SEAL-esque. And the SIG P229 is an excellent representation of that silhouette. Not only that, but its functionality and honestly, the fact that it's used for actual training gives this thing some legitimacy, and you know you can count on it in an airsoft game or during training. If you're interested in checking out SIG's lineup of pistols, the SIG 229 is the place to start. Check it out right here on our website at Evike.com. As always, make sure you're following our other social media accounts like our Facebook and Instagram for the latest product photos and videos, as well as checking out our videos right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and click that bell notification icon to be notified of our latest product videos and funny content that we come up with here on our YouTube. Remember, play hard, play safe, play responsibly. See you guys on the field.